G'day guys, Ben here and welcome to another episode of the Pumped on Property Show. Now in today's episode, I get super deep with an incredible friend and past client of mine named Troy. Now Troy's a rent-vestor living in Sydney with his 3 beautiful children and runs a very successful HR recruitment business. In this video, we talk about what Troy's learnt from running business, investing in property, gold, stocks, crypto, and other commodities. Troy is such a legend with such a big heart and so much wisdom. I'm super excited to bring today's podcast to you. Yeah, well, welcome to the show, mate. It's so good to have you here today.
Great to be on.
I'm super excited. So tell me about that moment. I suppose we're just getting straight into it today, but tell me about that moment when you decided that you'd like to become an investor, or where did that start? Were you young? Were you a little bit older? And, you know, where did that come from for you?
Yeah, definitely. So it's interesting when you think about that. For me, growing up, grew up in a middle income family. You know, we had everything we needed, but we were not sort of, over the top. Parents instilled some really good values and morals into me growing up. But really, when you think about it from an investing perspective or even from a work perspective, for me, it was all about you go, you study, and then you get a job and you work hard.
Yeah, me too.
That was the sort of the extent of, what we were told. So it wasn't any more in terms of what do you invest in and what does that look like? It really wasn't a question. It's you study hard, get a job and go from there.
Was there ever a conversation at home about investing? Because I can't remember one in my house. Like there was always business conversations. There was always work hard, go to uni, get a job. But there wasn't like a, hey, like, did you know about the index funds or did you know about property? Which I would have been flopping on, to be honest with you, from about 20, I think.
Mate, I would have loved it if I had that information. For me, it was all about become an accountant, become a lawyer, become a doctor. Okay. Go and study and get a good career, make something off yourself. But that bridge between when you make something off yourself or when you're on that journey, what does that mean and what do you do? Parents just didn't have that insight, or at least they didn't impart that, when we were growing up. So for me, it was go out there, study and do that. And that's what I did. So, I went to uni. I didn't go down the route of becoming a doctor or a lawyer.
That's what I was just thinking.
So I kind of kicked back a little bit with that. And I went with the HR route. So I went with something that more aligned with what I was interested in.
Yeah.
For me, that was really, I wanted to study business. So, what is it to be a businessman? What does that look like? I always had that idea of I want to do something. So my dad, he was a linesman when we were growing up, and then he started.
That works on the electricity.
Yeah, that's it. So he'd tell us stories or take us down to Bathurst and Orange and those kind of places. He used to work on all of the lines out in the mountains, the regional airports, those kind of things. When he was probably in his 40s, he started a video business. So he's a videographer. Back when that was, he had big cameras and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, just one massive arm.
Yeah, pretty much. But, the big biceps to hold it up.
Yeah.
So I used to go with him, and I used to be his light guy. So I used to turn the lights and sort of help him, do those things. So I had an early intro to running a business and what that looked like.
Love that.
So I always had in my mind, I want to be a businessman. So I don't want to necessarily be a doctor or a lawyer, an engineer. I want to go into business. So I studied business. When I was doing that, the HR route just really appealed to me. Yeah. So when I started the HR degree, it was, get a good job, work in that, and keep going in that way. I always had in the back of my mind, I want to do something more, whether that's, actually, funny enough, at that point, investing still wasn't on the cards.
Yeah.
Because it was I want to say it was a foreign concept. If you don't grow up seeing something or hearing about something, you're just oblivious to what that looks like. So it was go off, work really hard, and create a career. Through that journey, I started to think about, hey, I'd like to start my own business. I'd like to do something in that realm. Maybe part of it sort of looking back on what my dad was doing, he had his own business. So
how old were you when you were at uni during that phase of your journey?
19 to 21, 22.
So it was already in there like okay, these skills will be used for that one day, but I just got to build the experience on the way.
Yeah, pretty much. It was, I want to get to a point of running my own business. I don't know what that looks like just yet. Let's go collect some skills, form a really solid base, and then see where that takes me. So that was probably, I'm going to say maybe about 15 years.
Wow.
Something like that. Or
of building that base and building like different skills with different businesses?
Yeah, pretty much. So building that base, building those skills and experiences, and then 2018, for probably about 2 or 3 years before that, my wife and I had been thinking about there's got to be more to life than just sort of continuing in the rat race.
Yeah.
There's got to be more there. We need to be able to utilize our funds better, our time better. You know, what does that look like? We've still got one eye on, I want to start a business and do that, but how else do we multiply our wealth and really take a step up? It was during that time, 2018, came across Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Dude, that was the game changer for me, because I was like, I already want to be a business person too, but now I'm going to be an investor first. How grateful. How many people's lives has that guy changed for the better?
Phenomenal,
hey?
right? Like,
yeah.
Anyone I speak to and you ask that question, like, yep, 100%, that's a book I read, changed my life, it just opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And the way I like to think about what Kiyosaki did for me was he sort of filled in the gaps. You know, so you've got bits and pieces of information, bits and pieces of knowledge, but there isn't a thread drawing that together. So, you know, what do I do with this and what does it mean and what does it look like? So reading that was just a game changer for me.
I love that.
That just sort of took me up and I go, okay, hey, I want to be an investor.
Yeah.
I want to buy property and I want to jump into that and see where that takes me.
Yeah. Do you reckon if he talked about stocks or gold, we would be stock or gold investors? Like, I just think because he was so property, I was like, okay, it looks like I'm going down the property route.
I got gold as well.
It also made sense to me.
So he's big on gold and silver, especially if you look at him now. He's, you know, I think he owns gold mines and he sort of stacks silver.
Okay. So he's balling out.
Yeah, pretty much. So I've jumped into that space as well.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, when I look at investment, I think about it sort of holistically. It's you invest in property, you invest in precious metals, you invest in speculative things like stocks or crypto, but then you also look at investing in businesses as well.
Love that.
And sort of jumping out and seeing what else can you get involved in to continue to kind of create that umbrella of, like, ultimately, you know, financial freedom, but it's for me setting up my family, right? Setting up my family for generations down the track.
Oh man, I love hearing that. Like, there's a whole lot of cool things I want to talk about today, and we'll come back to some of them, but what does that look like? Like, if everything worked out for you and you ended up having like a full blessed life, what would you leave for future generations? Like, what could that look like for you? Because that's becoming my focus too. Like, what can I leave for my grandkids? Like, I know that's a weird thing to think about. I don't care about my personal legacy, but I think, what could I do over the next 50 years with good investment strategy for them? You know, what if every kid never had to pay for uni again in my future, or their trade? Or what if every time someone in my family line for 100 years bought a house, they could pull 100 grand out of the stock market and go do that? Like, I get excited about this stuff at the moment personally.
Yeah,
like, what does it look like for you, man?
When I think about that, for me, the first thing is teaching them lessons. So I want them to know what I didn't know.
Love that.
Right, that's for number one, because, you know, they talk about you can have, when you create wealth, it's the first generation has it. Second generation is used to it. Third generation squanders it.
Yeah.
And
they need the skills to be passed through, right?
Exactly right. Like, you can see that because, you know, so we're there creating the wealth, and you can see that obviously, you know, that you've been on both sides of the coin, right? So you understand what that looks like. You've got that goal and you run for that. Your kids are sort of 50-50. Maybe I know my older kids are sort of seeing a bit of the, you know, a bit of the struggle on the way up and really trying to have the delayed gratification and those kind of things.
My last kid, our last kids are stuffed, bro. It's just like they've seen the good life too much, eh? And it's like, I just want to take them back to the caravan I was living in until I was 5 and just show them, like, sometimes I'm like, you don't know how good this is. And they're like, no, we don't. Like, I'm like, man, one day maybe when you're 20 and you have to live on your own in a uni accommodation or something.
And that's the thing, right? It's getting them so that they then see that. But then they say the third generation, what do they see? They just see, we've got a great life. We've got everything we need. We've sort of got all of that is given to us. So for me, it's passing on the knowledge, because I'd love for it to be self-sustaining forever.
Yes.
Right? So passing on the knowledge. And then in terms of what I pass down, one, financial freedom. Yes, that's one component. Property portfolios, business portfolios, but it's the knowledge for me is key. You pass that down, and then lose. With that, I would then be comfortable knowing that you can lose business, you can lose property, you can lose wealth. but you can't lose knowledge.
Yes.
And knowledge means you can create it again, right? So that means that hopefully you never get in that spot, but they can keep going.
Man, I love that. That's so inspiring. Like, do you have an idea of what the asset, like what you're trying to pass down to them, like in terms of like a family trust structure or something like that? Like, would it be a combination of good quality property, as you said, stocks, maybe some precious metals, maybe some more speculative crypto stuff? Like, is that what you're thinking of putting together and going, you know, hopefully one of the kids really likes it and that's the one that you invest in more and more and more with the knowledge, and they become sort of the custodian of that trust or whatever and help the rest of the family, you know, come through as well? Like, I'm just talking out loud here. Maybe this is too deep, bro. Sorry. I'm throwing you right on the spot, man. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about it at the moment too.
I heard Phil Harvey talk about this. It was talking about a flea. And saying if you got a flea, and I'm going to make up the numbers because I can't remember exactly what they are, but let's say a flea's got a 36-foot vertical leap.
Yeah.
And if you get a flea and you put it in a jar that's sort of 1 foot, the flea will jump once and it'll hit the roof. And then it will jump again, hit the roof, and then it will realize I need to now just only jump a little bit less than 1 foot.
Okay.
That flea has kids. Those kids are born with a vertical leap of 36 feet. You put them in a jar, what happens? They only jump 1 meter. And that's also 1 foot, and that's all they know. So for me, I never want to kind of put a lid on the jar. So when you ask me the question about what do I want to pass down, it's a portfolio of things.
Yeah.
But I sort of look at, as you're climbing the mountain, you get to the peak, and then the clouds disappear, and there's another peak to get to.
So true.
So
and the fun's in the journey towards like whatever you're working towards. Hey.
Yeah. So yes, it's a portfolio of, you know, properties, precious metals, some speculative things, businesses. So I've got, you know, my main business, I've got another business at the moment, and sort of look to keep to acquire things. So it's passing down a portfolio of things, but there's no limit, right? It's just how hard can we play and how hard can we keep pushing, and then wherever we get to, then that's what the hand down is.
Man, that's so cool. Like, it's inspiring talking to you today. Like, we've had so many good chats, and I just wanted everyone to know that, like, when you came into the business, it was 2020, very like scary year, I suppose, as an investor. Like, you and I were having some pretty serious conversations because I think the stock market was either had just gone down or was just about to go down after you'd decided to work with us the first time. And I think it dropped as much as 35 to 45% for a period of the year. But obviously it also enabled you to get some beachside property pretty cheap, which was
amazing property.
Yeah, like, we thought it was going to do well, but we didn't think it was going to do that well. But, you know, coming back to that original question, like, you're at uni, you know that business is going to be part of the route in the future. I remember when you came to us, you'd already, you know, I knew you already had a portfolio of stocks and precious metals, obviously a great career. What was the transition point from, okay, we're thinking about this for that 3 years before you did it, to, okay, it's the right time to jump into it, which just happened to be one of the worst financial markets in the last 100 years. And how did you overcome that fear during that particular time, which, you know, remembering back, was a lot scarier than the market we're in now?
And you're right, that was a really scary time from a market perspective. You got to take a risk in life, right? You know, so you know there's if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one of the things I think about, that if you don't take a risk, you won't get the reward. Everyone who's taken a massive risk has got a massive reward. As long as you do the proper due diligence, but you've got to take that chance. I actually came across your information through a friend of mine who I was working with at the time, Fernando.
Yeah,
so
legend.
He had already bought a property with you guys, and we had been speaking about different investment strategies and, you know, where do we want to be and how do we keep moving forward. He'd thrown me your details, so I started to do a bit of research. Started listening to the podcast, listening to the YouTubes, and yeah, Fernando was really cool. It was a really good opening for me. So one of the things that really appealed to me was, so I knew I want to get into investments, sort of armed with all this really cool information. What do I do with it? I then started to listen to some of your content and consuming that, and just your fact-based approach around everything. You know, the data, what you think things could do, the people like Phil Anderson, you know, Core Logic, pulling all of those things onto the table that have, you know, 40, 50, 100 years of information back behind them, really smart people. That just gave me the confidence to say, okay, I want to make a step change. I've just seen the Sydney market sort of double and triple, right? So it just went crazy in that same period of time. where's the next place? And just listening to where Brisbane was, seeing something like up on the beaches there, it reminded me of the beaches in Sydney. And sort of looking at where were they 2000 compared to 2020, chalk and cheese, right? Like a huge growth. So got the knowledge, want to take the plunge. I've now found a partner who can expose me to a different area that I'm not familiar with at the moment, and then just jump in. It's like what Kiyosaki says, you pay your brokers well. Right? You get people around you, surround yourself with a really smart team, and then you execute on your strategy.
We all help each other up, and there's been so many things that you've inspired me with on the journey. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2020, you were still working with someone else, or had you already started your business by that point?
No, I was still working with someone.
That's what I thought, man. Like, I was like, as you came in this morning off camera, I was like, I thought you were. So you've gone and invested in a couple of really good properties at probably the, once in a 15-year time, really. And so you've got a couple of properties. You've also got a young family. Like, why did you take the risk to jump into your own business as well, man? Did you just want to, same as me, like make your life even crazier for a period of time? Or was it just inevitable and it was the right time because you had the investments behind you and, the kids were young and you knew it was time to go? Like, what happened there? Because last time I spoke to you, I knew that was the long-term trajectory, but I didn't think it was going to happen within a few years.
Yeah, definitely. So it was always on my mind. Like I said, pretty much from the beginning, it was, I want to start a business at some point. Through that journey, given that I was in the HR space, it felt like a consulting business.
Yeah.
That feels right. That's sort of where I can bring my knowledge in. And it was really just taking the plunge again. The time's right. I can sort of sit here and continue to stack knowledge, continue to work for someone. But unless I take that chance, unless I take the risk, well, it's just never going to happen. You've got to just jump in and make it work. So it was take a risk, take a plunge and go from there.
Did you, because I remember starting this business after I got fired from my previous job, unfortunately, and I had my second baby was 6 weeks old. We'd just gone all in on our own home and we were doing a speculative investment in like northern New South Wales near Byron. I had like literally less than $10,000 cash in the bank. And I remember coming home just crying and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to go down to Brisbane and get a job.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I know what we need to survive as well. And Lisa's like, you can't work with anyone anymore. And I'm like, but I need to, it's safety. Like, same as you, like for the 10 years before that, I'd wanted to, but I felt like it was jumping out of a plane. Did you have that same feeling like this is a really big deal? And then as you started to get out of your head and into the actual doing, it was just like, oh, that was actually like stepping off a gutter, but I've got to keep stepping off that gutter every day and continually getting better, putting better systems in place and like grow. It's just uncomfortable growth every day, but in the best way.
What you said is really important. So it's actually the family dynamic. So I'm assuming like you, my wife is my number one supporter.
Number one.
Right. So, and for me, that's key. If you got that rock in place, you can achieve anything from there. So my wife has always been encouraging me and saying, you can do it. You're amazing at what you do. Go for it. Take that chance, take that plunge.
So she's supportive and unconditionally has your
100%.
back.
Exactly. So for me, that's been, I don't know if it takes a weight off your shoulders, but it enables you to go off and to do the things you're great at.
Yes.
Right? And to run at it because you know that you've got that support sitting right there by your side and you're running together. So my wife had always been encouraging with me and it was just take the chance, let's go for it. You can do it. You're amazing. Run out there and make it happen. When you're looking at it from the outside, it looks huge. It looks massive. Like you said, it looks like you're in a plane, you're about to jump out. But you got the skills, you've got the knowledge. In the space I was in, inherently, it was like I was running businesses within businesses anyway.
100%.
So you're just taking that. There's some things around the edges that you need to learn, but then, you read good books, you listen to good podcasts, you surround yourself with really smart people. In today's day and age, I mean, growing up, what was it, Encyclopedia Britannica? Like, how hard was it, right? So
someone knocking at door to door.
Exactly, right? Whereas now, because everything's at our fingertips, if you've got a clear strategy and plan on where you want to be, as long as you execute on that, you'll get there and you'll take that and you'll run with it.
Talking about planning for a moment, because it's something that you and I, like, luckily we are, like, I can future think the same as you and go, I can see a better future, and then I trust that there's going to be a better future, and then I'll do what it takes to like bridge the gap as well. Knowledge, skills, attitude. But, you know, what does that look like? Like, what does success look like for you in 5 to 15 years from today? Like, obviously longer term, it's about setting up a family legacy that the knowledge and, you know, wealth transfer goes on to help people that you'll probably never even meet. But what does everything working out in your business and investments over the next 5 to 15 years look like for you? Like, is it maintenance? Is it more accumulation? Like, what are you sort of hoping for?
I'll talk about business and I'll talk about the investment side.
Cool.
Like I said, for me, there's 3 things that come together.
And
there's
most important, family in the middle.
Exactly, man. So family is number 1 in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you've got the business side and you've got the pure investment side that sort of all come in together and they complement.
Yeah.
So for me, on the business side, it's about continuing to grow out my recruitment and HR consultancy, getting that to a point where we're a really well-known brand within Australia and New Zealand, and then look at international expansion.
Okay. What is the name of the brand again, just for the people watching? Because there's a lot of people like myself that are always moving in this market. Like, what's the business called again?
Loop Business Consulting.
Loop Business.
Yeah.
LUK or?
No, Loop.
Oh, so, Loop, LOOP.
Yeah, so we're loopbc.com.au.
Okay, perfect, man.
That's us.
So building an Australian, New Zealand based brand, and you were talking about maybe taking it overseas as well at some point?
Yeah, definitely, man. So, you know, again, you've got to think about what's a longer term strategy and where do you want to be. So I've sort of planned out the next, 5, 10, 15 years. And I think it's build a really strong, well-known brand within Australia and New Zealand, then take the business to the Middle East and have a bit of an office in sort of Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and start to tap into that market, potentially an office in the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and then maybe West Coast US. So that's the sort of areas.
Small goal, bro. I love
exactly.
that, man. It's just so sick. I got to start thinking bigger again, man. I'm so grateful to catch up with you today. Okay.
We've got to challenge ourselves. But what I overlay on the top of that, and one of my clients I work with at the moment, he's a really great guy, super smart CEO. And one of the things me and him talk about all the time is you can have a great strategy, but execution eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's, you have the goal and the objective, but you got to execute on it every day. You know, you're getting up and you're putting in more work than the next person to get to that goal. So it's having that, but sort of running really hard at it. And you surround yourself with really great people. So I've got a couple of really good people in the team at the moment, and we just continue to grow out with, those 5 out of 5 performers, right? The great people who just add extra layers to your organization and take you to the next steps and enable you to achieve that vision.
One thing I love about every conversation we've ever had together is you take a values-based approach, which comes from family, spirituality, and you apply it to business and investing. Like, you do things with grace and kindness, and it's not just about taking over the world, although it sounds like that's what you guys can accidentally do.
Thanks, bro.
But it's just bringing that, like, we actually care for people and want to help people at the same time. And I froth on that. Like, I feel like that's the cool thing that people like you and I in our late 30s can bring to the world, a different approach that's like, of course we want to make money, we want to invest that money, but we also want to make things better and help people out as we go as well. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, and that's key, right? So when I started my consulting business, I thought there's heaps of people who do HR, thousands of people who do recruitment. If I just do it the same as them, what's your value prop?
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it's about actually having a different experience. So number one, you deliver value to the customers that you work with.
Yeah. You
partner with them like you're an extension of their team. But then you're right, you bring that more humanistic side to it so that there's like a holistic bubble. So we know when we partner with Loop Business Consulting, by partnering with them, we're closing the loop on our business, right?
Cool.
We've got to use some of the brand terms, right? And that we're getting a holistic solution here.
Yeah.
So you help our business sort of take that level up and kind of move forward. So that's what I look about there. But you're right, it's the values are number one for me. Right? Whether it be from the people I bring into the team or even the people that I work with. It's showing that we stand for something that's greater than just we want to take $1. Right? We're more than just that.
Man, that's beautiful. So that's 1 out of the 3. Like, do you want to talk family or investing next?
Let's go investing. So, and then we'll talk about family after that. So with investing, it's interesting, man. When we first started talking, it was let's build a residential property portfolio.
Yep.
was it, I think back then you might have been 4 homes to financial freedom.
Yeah.
I think now you've gone to
just
2.
two now.
Yeah, to 2.
I just realized that less than 1% of Aussies, let alone investors, will get to 4. So it's like, let's start with 200 grand a year of passive income for life. And then you want to ball out like most people do, then go harder.
Which is amazing, right? For most people, getting to 2 is phenomenal.
Game changer.
Exactly. You've changed your life. You've changed your family's life, your future generations. You've done something that most people don't do. Right? So getting to 2 is phenomenal. At the time, we spoke about 4 and we spoke about resi properties.
Yeah.
I've probably changed a bit in that time. So the last couple of years for me have really been investing in the business.
Yep, of course.
So that's where I was sort of to jump into more. But now when I start to think about, okay, what's the next step? Once I get that to a point that I'm happy with in the moment, where do I want to go for an investment side? And it's back into the property space, but I'm a bit more of an open book there. So again, I look at Kiyosaki and I think, man, he's got like thousands of properties, but he's also looking at apartment complexes and massive developments. And you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
So I sort of more now lean to, am I going to be knocking on your door soon and say, hey, Ben, let's look at another property and what does it look like?
There's so many more options. So now that you've like mentally leveled up, because the jump from, hey, same as you, like I started with some residential properties and cleaned them up, right suburbs, right times. But then as your knowledge, skills and position changes and your comfort level for like calculated risk as well, it just makes things easier to, maybe a subdivision would be more fun. Maybe in the next GFC, I'll grab some of those stocks at 50 cents in the dollar, but I'll also grab a couple of those industrial joints in Sydney that are, the business has unfortunately gone under and I can pick it up for 60 cents in the dollar as well. Like it starts becoming broader as well because it's all within comfort zone. It's just a knowledge gap to fill in the whole.
I just think you always have to challenge yourself. If you're not challenging yourself, you're not growing, you're not continuing to expand and sort of take the fullness of what life has given you. So that's a key thing for me. It's sort of getting out there and just taking a risk, taking a chance and seeing where we get with a strategy and a plan, but you've got to take that risk.
Where's that energy coming from? Like where's that place of like, okay, like I've gone from same as me, like conservative to, okay, I'm going to play a bigger life and I'm going to step into the person I was created to be. Like where's that energy on good days, bad days, great months, hard months coming from to like continually pull you in the direction of your dream?
It was like what we were talking about off camera. For me, faith is a huge thing. Right? So that really keeps me on the path and continuing to push. I sort of look at it as we've been given an opportunity and an opportunity for greatness here. So you've got to take that chance and to do the best that you can do. I look back on, from a faith perspective, some of the examples within my religion from the past, and they were people who were steadfast in their religion, but they were also amazing at business, amazing at education. They were the best at everything, amazing husbands, amazing fathers, amazing community leaders. So you look at that and say, we've got great shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And by sort of sitting here and not playing to the greatness of what we could be, we're actually doing a disservice to ourselves and a disservice to those who have come before us. And we've got to step up.
Dude, I love hearing that. Like, who am I? This is what I've been thinking after my trip. Who am I to stop myself becoming who I was created to be? Like I was listening to something a few mornings ago while I was working out. It's like, why not think big? Like have a bigger life, have a bigger impact, help more people, go further. Not in the way that you and I started about going about that. Like a lot of that was for me, at least in my 20s, like hustle, push hard, grow for the sake of growth and busy for the sake of busy. Where now it's more like, I'm just going to like trust that it's unfolding in the right way and then put the right steps in place to like, as the doors open, go through them in the right way with the lessons I've learned versus just, stumbling and hustling and pushing the rock up the hill. It feels like the rock's gotten to the first hill and now it's the momentum is gaining. Do you find like you're doing more, but it feels like less in a weird way at this stage of life a little bit more?
Yeah,
or
definitely.
Not? Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but
I feel what you're saying because momentum carries you. So I feel that it's sort of every day, if you take a step every day, you end up climbing that hill, right? You end up getting to the end of that marathon and it's the momentum that keeps you going. So I definitely agree that as you keep going, number one, you build your proficiency as well. Right? So you become smarter about things, you start to see patterns, and you can join the dots, so that can help you push ahead, easier than before. But definitely momentum is huge. It keeps you going and just keeps you running ahead.
I love that. Like, what are some of the hard times that you've come across, and how have you overcome them on your journey, whether it's with the family, with business, or investing? Because stuff comes up, right? Like, as much as we're both in a nice place right now, having a great conversation about like where we've come from, it's not always easy either. Like, I'm turning 39 really soon, similar to yourself. We've both been with our partners for 16 years for me, and a bit longer for you. Like, what's happened on the way here that sort of like cut you but not killed you?
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, there's always challenges in life. Like, there's ups and the downs. And I saw this recently. It was talking about a ball traveling. And if it was a straight line, it sort of takes, let's say, 5 seconds, where in the ups and the downs, the ball gets there in 3 seconds.
Okay.
Right. So it's sort of those, at your lowest points, you learn the most, that you pick up and you keep running with. So yeah, definitely we've had challenges in that time, whether it be from a work perspective or otherwise. But for me, it's about picking the learnings from it, and then knowing that in life, you're never tested with more than what you can handle.
I love that.
So that's something that I always come back to. And that I know if it's a difficult time, if it's a tough time, it's never something more than what I can handle. And I know, I've got this, and I can keep running with it. So that's what I use to kind of keep pushing me forward and learning from mistakes or errors. And, it is, you always see that. I'm a big believer in you learn from other people's mistakes as well.
Big time.
Right? I don't need to burn the hand all the time. And, so yeah.
Like, whoops. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. So, and like we were talking about before, with the access to different people from a podcast perspective, short videos, whatever it is, there's so many people who will talk about mistakes that they've made. So you can up-level your thinking and your knowledge to get there. Going back to another question that you asked me before around, we've got business, we've got investments, but then for me, the family in between, and where do I see that? It's similar to sort of the things that I know you've been talking about a lot more recently, and it's being present in the moment to have amazing experiences with your family.
I love that.
It's key, right? You work really hard, you push really hard from a business perspective, from an investment perspective, gaining knowledge, but then it's bringing that back in, being able to impart knowledge on the family.
Yeah.
But then also to be able to have quality time with my wife, with my kids, to be there and be present. There's no point in sort of sitting over here and saying, I'm an amazing investor, I'm an amazing business person, but I have zero time in the family. That's not the proper balance. No. Exactly. For me, success it's the family life. That's number one. That's the thing that I'd step over anything to have that.
I love that.
Right, and to keep that. That's my number one.
I love that so much. And what does success in family life look like for you? Like, in terms of, you are an investor, you are a businessman, how do you balance that I've got to be sharp in business guy? And you know what I'm saying? Like that, you're a kind dude, but sometimes there's decisions that all the time there's decisions that need to be made. How do you balance going from that version of yourself back to like that softer, yielding, like still the man of the home, but also like the kind guy and everyone's sort of in front of you with your kids and your wife type vibe? Like, how do you balance that? Because mainly so I can learn. Because I feel like, man, that's like constant balancing act, hey? Some days I'm good at it, some days it's really hard.
It's shifting gears.
Yeah.
So knowing that from a business sense, I need to be a leader. Right? So I need to set the vision, and then I need to keep people to task. You're good about it because you're good to people, but then you also need to be tough when you need to be as well. So there's that lens. When you're then taking back to a family lens with your kids, again, you're being a leader, right? And so you're the man of the house, you're showing them, so to my sons, I've got 2 sons and a girl, it's showing them what is it like to be the man of the house.
Love that.
To be the dad who takes care of the family, who's also a businessman as well. What are those values and morals that they need to have and impart on? So it's leading them through that. Hopefully to my daughter, it's showing her what hopefully she should be looking for in a future partner.
Sure, like
right?
Quality.
Exactly. What are the qualities that you're looking for? So you're right, there is that, warm and compassionate side with them, but then you're also leading them and you're showing them what that looks like. And then from a spouse perspective, it's like that unconditional love.
Yeah.
You know, and really going to that and saying that's your safe spot, your number one spot where you love being. And it's about protecting and caring for them. So it's interesting. Like there's some things that really cross over. You know, you're leading, you're still being, you're setting the future vision, you're being protective, and you're sort of wrapping your arms around them. But it's just shifting gears and knowing sometimes you need that mental cue to say, okay, I'm now going into a different environment. It's now I'm husband and dad. I'm not owner of the business, but also still, I want my kids to have something to aspire to as well on the business side. So you're still trying to impart within the family bubble that while my kids are young, they want to play and have fun. My boys want to go in the backyard and kick the ball around and, you know, wrestle on the ground, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, you have the fun as well.
So just a little personal question, or a couple of personal questions for me now, but how have things changed for you personally since the start of your journey when you read that book for the first time until now? Like, how have you grown as a person? How has your mindset, attitude, skills, beliefs changed as you've grown?
For me, the biggest thing is gratitude. So, you know, definitely moving into that phase of just being grateful for everything, you know, and being grateful for the step along the journey. So that's been a huge mindset shift for me, is putting sort of gratitude as that number one thing there, and that kind of pivots you and pushes you forward.
How do you practice that on a daily basis? Like, what's that tactically look like in your life? Because it's a big part of my life now too.
So really what I look at is, like what we spoke about earlier, for me, it's you've got that longer term vision and that goal, but you sort of take a moment to stop and reflect and appreciate what you have. You know, I heard this a long time ago, and it was, you don't compare yourself to someone who is ahead of you, you compare to someone who's behind you, because that keeps you grateful for where you are. You know, because the journey is never ending.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of, as long as you've got a high level of ambition, there's really never an end point. You can't say, oh yeah, that's the goal, and when I get there, I'll be happy, because when I get there, the clouds part away and there's another step to keep going, right? So
yeah,
that in itself can be a never-ending wheel. So you want to be grateful in that journey, moving to it. So for me, it's about taking that, being really present in the moment, and just being grateful for what you have, whether that be from number one, from a family perspective, but then also from the blessings that we have in life. Whether it be even for things like, you know, your health and your well-being, through to, you know, I've got this amazing opportunity to run my own business. I've got this great opportunity to be an investor and to buy properties and to do those kind of things. So I'm grateful for having that.
I love that so much. You know, my last question to sort of round things out a little bit is just, if you were sitting down with your 20-year-old self now that you're turning 39 this year, like, what would you say to that young guy who, if he was anything like me, was hungry but lost in a way? Like, he didn't know how everything was going to work out, but he trusted it would. Like, what would you say to that guy? What advice would you have if your kids were 20 and you were talking to them now?
If I was speaking to my 20-year-old self, I'd be saying to him, buy as many Sydney properties as you can.
It's like, blackjack's not that bad, man. Just get them all.
Exactly, man. What is it? Get a house on a big piece of land. Just go for it.
Yeah. That $300,000 unit in Cronulla that you could have bought that you thought was too expensive because your mum and dad weren't investors, just buy it.
Exactly. I think for me, for that 20-year-old self, and what I say to my kids is, have an ambition and have somewhere where you want to be, set that goal, and then work harder than anyone else in the room to get there. Yeah. Keep grounded in terms of your values and your morals, and stay true to yourself, but you got to work hard. You know, there's nothing in life is given to people who take an easy route. If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? You got to work hard, you got to grind really hard, you get there, and you'll get there in the end. Appreciate life along the way, and everything will work out.
You know, in terms of that concept of working hard, just to like dig into that a little bit, do you go through seasons? Like, you're obviously in a season right now, early stage business, incredible business from talking to you off camera, like two very different arms to it. It's now time to like put out the bucket and work hard, right? Like, this is very much, everything's been leading to this point to go to the next one.
Yep.
So with that concept of working hard, do you see that being a forever thing, or something like you mentioned with the ball before, where it ebbs and flows, but because you're open to that, you sort of move faster?
I think it's for everything. And what I mean by that is if you rest on your laurels, you'll fall behind. Someone will catch you and keep going. So you've got to have that end point that you're aiming for. And it's a constant ambition, right? You know, in life, we want to be challenged.
Yeah.
Right? You want to keep, well, maybe we want to be challenged. You know, we want to have that, that motivation and the drive.
Probably like death to someone else, you know, but your tolerance for that change is so strong now because it's a muscle, right? You've built that uncomfortableness, and it feels cool to sit there versus down there now. Exactly.
So in that sort of mindset of wanting to keep pushing ahead and keep driving, you've got to be uncomfortable. You've got to challenge yourself to keep rolling with it. So I don't necessarily think it's a point in time. Like there are points in time where maybe you push harder than others because there's a specific deadline, there's maybe a new product launch or something like that you're really aiming for and you're targeting to nail well, but you got to be working hard all the time. I know, you know, some people, especially now, that the concept of delayed gratification, it's sort of disappearing, especially with some of the younger generations. You know, everyone wants to straight away, I'm a millionaire and I've got an amazing business and I own 50 properties. I've made it from day one, right? And like you and I know, when you see people who've done that, if you peel away the curtain, man, they've worked hard to get there. They've put in effort and time and, you know, blood, sweat and tears to get there. So I don't think it ever changes, because if you ever stop, it can be gone like that.
100%. And yeah, I'm yet to meet a single person that didn't have family money that has not gone through a period of 5, most likely 15 years of like building that foundation deeper. Then all of a sudden you can put the skyscraper on top. Like one of the best stories that I ever heard. Do you remember Brian Tracy?
Yep.
He was the property developer that became like a motivational speaker. And he said, if you want to build a single story home and that's the metaphor for your life, then you need a 6-inch slab and you'll have a home that will stand for 50 years. But if you want to build a 100-story building, then you have to go deep. And that foundation could be 6 to 20 stories deep to have that thing standing. And the concept that I pulled from that was like, no one sees you building that foundation because it's all below the surface. Then they start looking at you and going, you're lucky. And I'm assuming in your friendship groups and family groups, like, and just with people that you meet, like there's that concept of, it's just sort of happened for him. And it's like, nah, man, you've been in the trenches for 20 years. It's just starting to show up, you know, it's that seed is finally poking through, and as soon as it gets through, it's much easier for it to become what it's supposed to be.
I heard a quote once and I liked it. You know, you listen to a lot of things, you pick the best from everything. So, you know, always reading, always consuming knowledge. This quote that I heard was, if I don't bite off more than I can chew, how do I know how much I can fit in my mouth? Right?
I love that.
It's a little bit crude, right? But I liked it because when you think about what are they saying, like what does it mean? It's true. You know, if I don't take a chance, if I don't sort of go for something that looks a bit too far a stretch, how do I actually know what I can achieve?
I love that. I saw Ed Sheeran recently on that carpool karaoke put about 54 Maltesers in his mouth at once, and I'm like, he is a guy that's chewing up a pretty big life. That's so cool, man. Is there anything else that you sort of wanted to say? Like, is there any books or people that you vibe on YouTube or podcasts that you wanted to recommend for other people that are either where we're at the moment or beginning their journeys? Like, is there anything that's really impacted you that someone else might vibe on? I'm putting you on the spot again, man. Sorry, there's no prep here.
And look, it's funny you asked me that. I've actually bought 6 new books on the weekend.
No way. So what did you buy?
All right, so I bought Your Next 5 Moves. It's a strategy book by Patrick Bet-David.
Cool.
I enjoy listening to some of his stuff as well. So he's someone definitely that I encourage people to listen to.
Next 5 Moves, I love that. I haven't heard of it.
Okay, yeah, it's a strategy book, so it looks pretty cool. How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Read that one, Dale Carnegie.
Yep, that's a good one. And then I've tried to jump into more around like sales tactics, influence and negotiation. So I've got one that's Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion.
Yep.
Right, so that's a big one. Warren Buffett's Guys, I'm going to recommend that as a good book to read. And I've then got The Laws of Human Nature.
Cool.
Right, so again, sort of thinking in that psychology space, getting to yes, and the psychology of money.
Man, I love it, hey.
Okay. So now I've got a bit of literature I need to get through and read. And look, for me, it's about especially when you're a business owner, you're an investor, you're trying to get more information and more knowledge, and like we were talking about before, Encyclopedia Britannica, we don't have that anymore. We've got sort of information at our fingertips. So I'll regularly listen to guys on YouTube, whether it be, I definitely listen to Pumped on Property. I've got to subscribe to the updates, guys.
Thanks, mate.
I listen to other things around different investment strategies. I listen to business-related podcasts. I like things around mindset as well.
Me too.
So you sort of jump into that. And then when there's some good books that people recommend, so those books are actually recommended by Patrick.
Okay.
So you jump on, you consume them, because you sort of look at people that have a good level of knowledge, influence, experience, and saying, okay, what do you know? Let me tap into that, and how can I utilize that to take that next leap forward?
I remember Jim Rohn, who's one of my favorite of all time. Library, and I'll tell you what they're earning.
Yeah, nice.
And that's so funny, man. Like when I moved to Sydney from the Sunshine Coast after uni, I had $0. I was going into IBM's grad program, and I had a two-door $1,000 Toyota Echo car that one night my friends all got drunk and physically lifted it. 4 people lifted it and put it on the gutter. It had a clutch that was about that long, and it was just so hard to drive.
Yeah.
But I literally kept that car until I had 4 properties. And I remember moving every single thing that I had in my entire life in that car, which was like 1 bag of clothes and 2 duffel bags of books. And my father-in-law was just like, why are you always with these books, man? Like, and I'm like, the foundation thing, I'm like, I read so much and I listened to so much stuff, and I still continue to this day. Like 2 of the books that I've read recently that have changed my life from a business mindset perspective. Like, Alex Hormozy.
Yep.
He's just sort of come on. He wrote $100 million deals and $100 million leads and $100 million sales. And these 2 books, they talk about people, the psychology of like decision making.
I've got the first one. I'm going to read that as
Leads?
well.
Yeah. Or sales, I think was the first one, sorry. But the towards and away motivators. And I just started to think about that for myself as an investor. Like, what are the key challenges I come across, and what am I trying to move away from, and what am I moving towards? But now I think about it more in business too. And it's like, I'm just same as you, like constantly buying too many books, putting them in a cupboard, and then when I go on holidays, maybe reading through them, because it's like, some days you come home and your brain's just like,
yeah, definitely.
You just want to kick the ball with the kids.
I try and do it in the evenings.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to wind down, I've moved into, when you think about it from like that holistic life perspective, you were saying we're both turning 39 this year, so we're starting to get a little bit older.
Yeah.
You got to think about, how do I stay healthy and fit? So getting into the gym, getting up early, but then also sleeping earlier at night.
Yeah.
And as part of the wind down, I try and get a bit of time with a book and just read a little bit. To, brings you back down and settles you into sleep.
I love that, man. I'm so grateful to catch up with you today,
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, and appreciate it, guys. If you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 6 months, then the team and I at Pumped on Property would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. To book the session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that free strategy session button. Now, in the session, we'll talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and educate you deeply on the Australian property market. You can then take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each month. Either way, we look forward to continuing to help you build your property portfolio with confidence on your journey to financial freedom.